My name is Shimon Fredman, and for the better part of my life, I believed I knew exactly who I was. At 66 years old, I had spent 3 decades as the rabbi of Beth Tikva congregation in Asheville, North Carolina. My identity was deeply interwoven with my heritage, a proud lineage of Jewish scholars stretching back generations. My father and grandfather, towering figures in their own communities, had each carried the mantle of leadership with unwavering dedication. From my earliest memories, I saw myself walking the same path, destined to preserve the traditions of my ancestors and shepherd my people with wisdom and faith. As a boy, I would sit in my father's study, mesmerized by the rows of ancient books with their faded spines and intricate lettering. The room seemed alive with the voices of generations past, their words captured in the pages of the Talmud, Torah commentaries, and teachings of the sages. I listened intently as my father recounted the stories of our people, from the triumphs of the Exodus to the trials of exile, each story steeped in lessons of endurance, hope, and faith. By the time I was old enough to understand the weight of our traditions, I was certain that my life's purpose was tied to carrying them forward. The years at Beth Tikva were fulfilling, though demanding. I became a fixture in the lives of my congregation, officiating weddings, comforting mourners, mentoring young bar and bat mitzvah students, and delivering sermons that sought to illuminate the ancient texts in ways that resonated with modern hearts. My days were consumed with these responsibilities, and while the work was exhausting, it was also deeply rewarding. I often believed that my steady devotion to my role left no room for doubt or disruption. But life, as it turns out, has a way of unraveling even the most tightly woven narratives. For decades, I saw myself as a protector of sacred traditions, a teacher of unchanging truths. Yet, as I look back, I realize how tightly I had clung to the certainty of my own understanding. What I did not yet know was that my carefully constructed world was about to be shaken to its core. A single, unanticipated moment was waiting, poised to challenge everything I thought I knew about God, faith, and the very essence of who I was. The morning began as any other, steeped in the familiar rhythms of my life. I sat in my study, the room bathed in the soft winter light filtering through the tall, narrow window. Outside, Asheville was blanketed in a pristine layer of snow, the usual hum of city life muted by the storm. It was the kind of morning that invited quiet reflection, a pause to admire the beauty of creation. My desk, as always, was a cluttered sanctuary of sacred texts and sermon notes. I was preparing to speak on the endurance of faith, drawing inspiration from Abraham's unwavering trust in God amidst trials. The words flowed with the ease of routine, honed by years of practice. Yet, beneath that calm surface, something was stirring. A subtle but insistent discomfort that had begun weeks before. The ache in my left arm was faint at first, easy to dismiss as stress from an overburdened schedule. I had buried myself in work, planning a new Hebrew school wing, managing delicate negotiations, and shouldering the endless demands of a congregation that looked to me for guidance. Naomi, ever attuned to my well-being, had urged me to see a doctor, but I waved her off. "There's too much to do," I had said. "I'll be fine." That morning, the ache deepened. It grew into a pressure in my chest, spreading like a heavy weight settling behind my sternum. I set my tea down, unease creeping in. A strange sweat broke out across my forehead, and a chill ran through me despite the heat of the room. I tried to shake it off, forcing myself to focus on my notes. But as I reached for my pen, my hand trembled. Then it hit, a sudden crushing force that knocked the breath from my lungs. My chest burned, the tightness becoming unbearable. I stumbled to my feet, intending to call for Naomi, but my legs betrayed me. I collapsed, my body refusing to obey, and the scattered sermon notes fluttered to the floor like fallen leaves. I reached for the phone, desperate, but my fingers couldn't grasp it, clattered uselessly out of reach. The realization struck like lightning. I'm having a heart attack. My vision blurred, and the room seemed to tilt. I could hear the frantic pounding of my heartbeat, a deafening drumbeat that echoed in my ears. Then it began to fade. Panic welled up, but it was no match for the crushing exhaustion that enveloped me. As the world around me dissolved into darkness, the last thing I heard was Naomi's voice, a panicked, urgent cry that pierced through the haze. I was later told that my heart had stopped. Paramedics arrived in record time, battling slippery roads to reach me. They worked tirelessly, administering shocks and CPR as they raced to the hospital. For nearly 20 minutes, my heart did not beat on its own. By all medical accounts, I was clinically dead. But those 20 minutes were anything but empty. I found myself floating, not in the physical sense, but as though my essence had detached from my body. I could see the scene below with startling clarity. The paramedics working frantically, Naomi's tear-streaked face, the bright red of the ambulance lights reflecting off the snow. There was no fear, only an odd sense of detachment, as though I was observing someone else's life unfold. Then, a force tugged at me, a gentle yet undeniable pull. The world below faded, replaced by a tunnel bathed in radiant light. It was not the harsh glare of the sun, but a brilliance that was soft yet all-encompassing, filling every corner of my awareness. Time seemed to stretch and dissolve, each moment expanding into an eternity of its own. As I moved through the tunnel, my life unfolded before me, not as a series of memories, but as a vivid, immersive reliving. I experienced every moment as though it were happening for the first time. I felt the joy of my childhood, the pride of becoming a rabbi, the love shared with Naomi and our children. But I also felt the pain I had caused others. One memory seared itself into my awareness. As a boy, I had excluded a classmate, Aaron Jacobs, from a game because his family held a more liberal view of Judaism. I relived not only my own smugness but also Aaron's hurt, a piercing sorrow that gripped me as though it were my own. In another moment, I saw myself delivering sermons laced with pride, my congregation's perception of my arrogance laid bare. Each moment revealed the ripple effects of my actions, both the good and the harm, on those around me. At the end of the tunnel, I emerged into a vast realm, an expanse beyond comprehension. It was not a physical place but a spiritual one, where every sense was heightened. In the center stood a presence, overwhelming, radiant, and holy. I fell prostrate, though I had no physical body with which to bow. The presence emanated love so pure it filled every fiber of my being. Yet it also carried a weight of authority that exposed every hidden motive within me. Then, to my astonishment, I recognized the presence. It was Jesus, the very figure I had spent a lifetime dismissing, debating against, and systematically excluding from my theology now stood before me, undeniably divine. He spoke my name, not with condemnation, but with a sorrowful gentleness that pierced my soul. "Shimon," he said, "you studied about me, but you never truly knew me." Those words unraveled me. Decades of certainty crumbled as I realized the chasm between my knowledge of God and a personal relationship with Him. Jesus showed me how my teachings, intended to uphold tradition, had at times become barriers for those seeking Him. I saw members of my congregation who had quietly wrestled with questions about Jesus, only to have their curiosity stifled by my confident dismissals. The weight of that realization crushed me. In the next instant, the scene shifted. I was shown a place of anguish, a darkness illuminated by searing flames. The heat was overwhelming, but the true torment was spiritual, the despair of eternal separation from God. The cries of those who had rejected Him echoed in the void, their anguish palpable. I understood with terrifying clarity the consequences of turning away from the truth. Yet Jesus did not leave me in despair. His presence remained, radiating love and offering redemption. "Your life has been preserved for a purpose," He told me. "Many are searching, and you must help them find me." With those words, I was pulled back into my body, gasping for air as the paramedics declared a pulse. My chest burned with pain, but my mind was clearer than it had ever been. In the days that followed, I grappled with the enormity of what I had experienced. Was it a vision, a dream, a hallucination? But deep within, I knew it was real. The clarity, the truth, and the love I encountered could not be dismissed. My life since that day has been a journey of transformation. I have lost much: my position, the respect of many in my community, and even the easy comfort of my old certainties. But I have gained far more: a relationship with the living God, a purpose that transcends tradition, and a mission to share the truth I encountered in that radiant realm. To anyone hearing this story, I leave you with this: we are all given a choice. In the end, it is not our accomplishments, knowledge, or traditions that matter, but the state of our hearts before God. Choose wisely, for eternity hangs in the balance.